Packaging at the moment is seen as a negative thing. It's seen as waste quite often. Once we have established this strong and robust circular economy for packaging, we'll actually be able to start thinking of it differently. Maybe packaging can be something that will regenerate and give back to the natural world. We've already seen green shoots of this now. We're seeing packaging made from waste, made from emissions. We're seeing packaging being turned into additives that will bring back the health of soil. We're seeing packaging that could give back to communities. That's a really exciting direction for packaging to go towards.
Packaging design should seduce, inform, and even save the planet. I'm Hernán Braberman, and this is BRANDERMAN, the podcast where I talk with experts to uncover what it actually takes to make a positive impact on consumers, the market, and society. Warning: keep this podcast out of the reach of close-minded marketers and designers. Before the interview, let me introduce my design agency.
Brands with purpose. Human, agile, honest brands that leave no one indifferent. Tridimage creates and revitalizes brands to imagine and shape the future. Tridimage, the branding and packaging design agency for bold brands.
Today I'm excited to welcome James Pryor, co-founder and managing partner of Touch, a leading agency in structural packaging innovation. At Touch, James and his team harness strategic insights to create sustainable, future-ready growth for some of the world's most renowned brands. In this episode, he shares his perspective on why packaging is more than just a wrapper. It's a crucial part of the sensory product experience. We also explore the industry's biggest challenges, from shifting consumer behavior to the push for sustainability, and take a look at the future of packaging design. Here with me today is James Pryor. James, each of us is a container of ideas, projects, and dreams. However, we can't read the label when we are inside the jar. What do you think your label says, or what would you like it to say?
I love this question. I guess we're all so multifaceted as people. Everybody is, right? So it's hard to capture it all on one label. So I guess mine will probably say James Pryor, packaging innovator for people, planet, and brands. And there will probably be also a QR code or something like that you could scan if you wanted to know more about me, like where I'm from, about my family, all my experiences, stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's what I would like on my label.
Great, smart packaging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Building a brand is like a journey. It starts with defining where we are and asking ourselves where we want to go. What was the path that led you from studying product design to founding Touch?
It's been quite a journey. Like most pack designers, we didn't really start out thinking, I'm going to be a pack designer. I thought I was going to be a product designer. And that's really where it started. And for me, again, like a lot of people, it was an inspiring teacher that got me there. I was 16 years old. I was studying my A-levels here in the UK. And I was studying design and technology. And I had this fantastic teacher, Mrs. Paula Lawson. I'm not sure if she's still teaching. I hope she is, because she had a real impact on me. She's the one that made design really come alive for me. She gave me that inkling that, we don't just design for the sake of it. We do it to serve a purpose. We did some fantastic projects with her at my A-level, but it wasn't until she brought her brother in, who was a practicing product designer in quite a well-known product design agency. And she brought him in and he just took us through a day in the life of a product designer. He got his marker pens out and started drawing with us. And I was like, that's incredible. His thoughts are coming out on paper and they just look so beautiful. It was like, I want a piece of that. And the more he talked about how we investigate, how we research, how we prototype, and how that sketch will eventually become something in somebody's hands somewhere, maybe thousands or millions of people's hands somewhere in the world, that it just captured me. So Yeah, I graduated from my A-levels and I went on to university. I studied at Coventry University, and that's where I got my master's in consumer product design. And again, I was so fortunate to have fantastic instructors there. I still talk to some of my instructors actually that are now approaching retirement at the university. Especially there's a guy called Tim Ball who was incredibly influential on me. And it's really there that I understood the value of context, and understanding the context for which you're going to design within, and using strategy to start informing creativity. And also at the university, we started working with brands. And that was my first real exposure to working with brands. So we were working with brands like Speedo and Land Rover and Reebok and Nike. And that was super exciting to be working with these brand characters, with these brand values, and actually turning them into kind of physical experiences. And when you're at university, there are no boundaries, really. You're not constrained by commercial, technical stuff. So it was so much fun. And I think that really cemented it for me, this thing for designing for brands. But I guess following university, my first job was actually with a very traditional product design agency. And we were doing everything from designing traditional things like a kettle or a lawnmower or a toaster or something. And on the other side of things, we were designing life support systems for fighter pilots. So really varied. Some of the projects were super exciting and they taught you the rigor of testing. So that was a really fun environment to work within. But it wasn't until a good friend of mine recommended that maybe I should try this agency in the north of England called Pure. And they had a real mix of product design, of packaging design for brands within the business. And it was there really that I was first exposed to designing packaging. And that's where it really clicked for me. We were designing packaging to create experiences for consumers, millions of consumers, not just 100 fighter pilots or maybe 50,000 people that might buy one particular kettle. We were designing for millions of people, but doing it by taking brand identities, brand characters, and turning those into experiences. From there, I was hooked. And that's how I got into packaging design. And from there, that agency ended up being incorporated into a much bigger group in the south of England called 1HQ. That's where I met Guy, my business partner. And I worked there for a couple of years. Something happened there. It was quite a big agency. The structural part was quite small compared to the graphic part of the organization, and they were operating structures. And the business decided that actually those two should be joined together. And in doing that, there was some conflicting of client. And so Guy and we had to turn around to some of those clients and say, hey, I'm sorry, we can't work with you anymore because of conflict that's arisen. However, we're thinking of starting up another agency. Perhaps you'd like to come with us. We can finish the projects that we're on and maybe work together into the future. And that's exactly what happened. So that was back in 2007. And we really haven't looked back since then. So yeah, we've charted our own course and the agency has gone from strength to strength since then.
And if you could travel back in time and give some advice to that rookie James, what would it be?
That's a really good question. I guess when we started, that Guy was very much, and he still is today, the kind of the champion of the relationship with the client. And I was very much championing the role of design and the output of the agency. And I think I would tell James to pay more attention to those relationships and learn how to foster them, to really understand what would bring value to them as a client, but also to the output of the projects. Because it's something I have learned, but I just learned it a bit too slowly, I would say.
How has your vision of package design evolved during this journey?
Gosh, the industry has changed so much. Our agency's mission is about shaping things to come. It's about future-proofing brands. Now, if you go back to the early 2000s, it certainly felt like structural pack design, it was mostly about creating just the most exciting cut-through expressions of brands through packaging and doing it with very little thought of consequence. And for example, sustainability was never in the brief, didn't even feature. Today, it's an integral part of every brief, and many of the briefs that we work on, it's the number one ask. We've always tried to promote sustainable design practices, but it's now at the point where we've had to evolve the agency so that we have all of the skills to navigate what is an ever-evolving, challenging, and exciting topic. So we've had to bring in expertise in pack legislation, in LCA, end-of-life infrastructure, value chain analysis, material expertise, research expertise, all these kinds of things that we never would have thought we would have needed back in the early 2000s. And also, our clients have evolved too. They expect certainly structural design where there's a serious amount of investment required. Our solutions, our strategies that we create, they need to be built on really strong, robust strategic thinking so that we can really ensure what we do is super future-proof, because it's a big investment that comes with structural pack design. So we've had to, again, bring in expertise into the studio and make sure that the creative is well supported by really strong strategic thinkers, really strong insight hunters. So we've got that really solid direction for the creatives and for the technical guys. And also, it's really important at the end of our projects where our strategic guys are able to keep us accountable and make sure that the insights that we were building on in the very beginning of the project, we're actually delivering on at the very end of our project. Ultimately, we end up delivering strategy and solutions that deliver on desirability for the consumer. They're technically feasible, commercially viable. Yes, they're sustainable, but they're also brand building.
How would you describe an ideal Touch client?
A collaborator. We don't like being given a brief, told to investigate, and then come back with solutions. We want to go on the journey on a project with our clients. It's not about designing in isolation. The client knows their business better than we ever will. And we really appreciate it when we're able to be taken on almost as part of their team. Most of our projects, we like to hold some really in-depth stakeholder interviews, not just talking with brand teams, but talking to technical, go and visiting the factory, go and talking to parts of the supply chain, even understanding procurement's role, understanding consumer insights role, and getting all those different understandings from different parts of the business so that we're well informed, and ultimately that will lead to a better expression at the end of the project.
If your agency were a landscape, what would it be and why?
I'd like to think it would be a gently rolling seascape. There are peaks that you might be sat on top of that you feel, okay, you can see the horizon, you can see what's coming and things are good. But occasionally there are troughs in the waves where it feels, oh my gosh, we've got so much to do, so much to climb. So it's a real mixed bag being an agency. I guess that's how I would describe it.
When it comes to packaging, how does it feel to practice product design through the lens of branding?
Certainly when we're talking about structural pack design, it's about creating complete experiences. Some people think of certainly the packaging side of things as the wrapper, the thing that looks good on shelf, the thing that the consumer interacts with. But it's a holistic experience of pack and product working in harmony together to create something that is incredibly sensorial. For us, really getting to grips with the consumer very early on, understanding the role of this product in their life, what their behaviors are, what their ambitions are, what their aspirations are, things that will influence ultimately the end result. For us, we have to take this approach because if we don't create desire for the consumer, what's the point in what we're doing?
What do you think is the role of a bespoke structural design in brand building?
When we embark on a project for a client, they have an ambition, and that ambition has to be tackled completely holistically. Of course, there's a brand building element to this, but there's also the consumer desirability piece, which we just talked about. But it also has to be delivered technically. How are they going to produce this? Is it going to be with existing capability? Are they going to have to invest? Commercially, can they afford it? What's the risks associated with it? What's the opportunity for growth with the solution that we're going to develop? And will it be sustainable? All of these things have to be considered together if we're going to create something that's completely brand building. And on top of that, when we think about how we build for brands, it has to be about taking the brand purpose, the brand character. And with structural design, we've got the opportunity to craft something that uses those distinctive assets that a brand may have built up over time and just construct them into something physical that's recognizable at shelf and resounds with the consumer. But also, what often gets overlooked is the experience that structural pack design can create. And if we can, we can take brand purpose and we can unite that with a user experience, well, that's how we create affinity. It's how we create loyalty. And if we can keep the consumer coming back to this wonderful experience, then we future-proof that brand.
How can we make packaging a powerful tool for innovation?
With innovation, you can't do it on your own. And one thing we've learned on all of the successful innovations that we've worked on is you have to do this through collaboration. Whether that's collaborating with various parts inside an organization that you're working with, or finding the right experts to partner with to make something happen. As an agency, we're quite often the connector of partnerships. We've recently had a launch for a seafood brand, and we've developed a really innovative multi-pack solution. We came up with the idea, but we also did the groundwork to find the particular partners that could actually make this happen, from material supply and machine supply. And without that partnership, without that collaboration, I don't think innovation can really happen.
What context do you think is needed for innovation to flourish within an organization?
A willingness from everybody that's involved in that to take a step back from the way we do things today, a willingness to just take the time to explore where we could play, and also to be inspired by what's outside. Because quite often, and we see this across many of the projects that we work on, all of our clients, we work globally, we work across all FMCG categories, but the challenges that all of our clients are facing are very similar ones. How do I reach consumers more effectively? How do I express my brand in a really effective way? How do I bring value? How do I save money for many of our clients? These are all really common challenges, but they all get solved in very different ways. What we're able to bring as an agency is inspiration across all of those different spaces that we work to really inform the projects that we work on.
James, I think that most companies practice what I call innovation porn. They do not engage in real change, but a scripted and like a spectacular version, oriented more to how it looks than to what it does. How can we practice real innovation instead of innovation porn?
That's a lovely phrase. I've not heard that one before. I guess we as an agency, what we want to do is we want to deliver value and benefit for the consumer, the planet, and for brand. When we talk about innovation porn, as you described it there, we're almost doing it to satisfy ourselves. We're not doing it for the benefit of those who are really interested, those that will part with money to either appreciate the products we'll put in their hands, or who will pay for these projects. And like I said, the sustainability side of things can't be ignored anymore either. When we approach these projects, we have to look through those lenses, look through the lens of the consumer, look through the lens of the planet, look through the lens of the business. And if you do that and you find insights that will unlock value for each of those three interested parties, people, planet, and business, then I think you will actually do something more meaningful than designing to satisfy yourself and do something spectacular.
Great.
And ultimately, I think you'll also end up with a result that's probably more spectacular.
Design and innovation can only be considered a success if sustainable future-proofing is as critical as commercial viability, brand building, technical feasibility, and consumer desirability. James, can you describe what Vault by Touch is and why you decided to develop it as a hub for packaging innovation?
Vault is a packaging innovation subscription platform and is designed to inspire and unlock positive pack innovation for agencies, for clients, for education. And the reason we launched this was because we found that over the years of working at Touch across all the different categories, across all the different countries that we've worked with, we found that we've built up a massive mountain of inspiration that actually we thought that rather than sit on it ourselves and use it just to inspire our own projects, which we only get to solve one at a time, actually we could speed real positive industry change if we made it available to everybody. These inspirations, we find them through our relationships with suppliers, through relationships with universities, events that we attend. And because of the nature of our work, we quite often have pack innovators sharing their innovations with us, their thoughts with us, because they know that we can connect them to other organizations. So we've put it all through Vault to make it a really seamless and easy way for different businesses and organizations to be inspired by pack innovation and hopefully unlock some of the challenges that they're trying to work on.
What advice should every marketer remember when innovating, and what advice you think they should ignore?
It's very easy to look at competitors and say, oh my gosh, look at how they've innovated. I must do that. I think what's really important is you take the time to uncover the insights that are true to your brand, true to your particular consumers, to really understand, okay, what could you do that's really ownable by you, that would give you the edge in ways that other organizations couldn't deliver on. And I think if you do that, you'll end up with something that's relevant to you only and will ultimately future-proof your organization.
What's the biggest design or innovation challenge you have faced so far at Touch, and how did you overcome it?
That's a big question. It's the topic of reuse or refill, recharge. It's something that we know the industry is moving towards, but it's an incredibly difficult concept to land with lots of different parties, whether it's asking for consumers to really change their behaviors, asking for organizations and brands to change the way they deliver their products from single use to reuse. We've been involved in countless kind of test and learns, looking at all kinds of different scenarios, both at the brand level and also at the kind of research level with universities too. And we've made all kinds of learnings, but it's one we still haven't fully cracked. I'm hopeful that we will get there, but it's been a very big journey. And I'd say it's something that we've been involved in for quite a few years now.
And what are you optimistic about, and what are you afraid of?
The thing that I'm afraid of is that people won't want to make the change. People won't make the jump. People won't realize that, oh, actually, we have to make the most out of the resources that we use. The thing I'm optimistic about is that in pockets, I've really seen it work. There are parts of the packaging industry that have really made a great impact this way. You look at the beer industry, for example. In Canada, for example, there is the Beer Cooperative, which has got 3 competing breweries, all using the same packaging, the same collection, the same cleaning, the same processes. And they've been going for 100 years doing this, or almost 100 years doing this. And in that time, I think they've collected something like 75 billion beer bottles. That's incredible. And at the same time, they've had almost 100% return rate as a result of collaborating together and bringing consumers on that journey with them. So I feel like there is hope that it can work, but I'm just apprehensive, I suppose is the word, that consumers won't want to come on that journey with us, or certainly won't want to come on the journey with us quick enough.
In that case that you mentioned about Canada, do you think that sustainability is at odds with brand personality in structural design terms?
Yeah, that's a really good provocation, because standardization, it can hinder differentiation. In the case of Canada, and that beer example that I gave there, the thing that separates those beer bottles that come from lots of different brands is the quality of the product and the label that goes on the outside. We're working live on projects right now where we're trying to think of reusable modular pack systems that give brands the ability to be distinctive from one another, but within a framework, so that we can create a critical mass in order to make reuse happen. Because ultimately, one brand or one business alone won't make reuse happen. It will have to be a collaboration, not just for consumers to say, yeah, we get on board with this, but a collaboration of businesses and organizations to say, yes, we want to make this happen. Okay, in order to do this, let's work together. And we're starting to see that happen. And then some of the projects that we're working on, I'm feeling hopeful that we can come up with an approach that can actually do that.
Great. What is the worst design crime you have ever seen or perhaps committed?
I don't think I'm going to call anybody out on this particular one. Sometimes we get briefed on projects that have been attempted in the past by other parties. And the results of those projects, they just weren't feasible or sustainable, or they were too expensive, or they failed the actual primary function of what packaging is, which is to protect the product. And we could then get asked to fix this, right? And do the project again, usually from a negative position. The reason those projects fail is because whoever did it, they didn't take the time to understand the project context, the capabilities, the product protection requirements, or the consumer, what they wanted, or the commercials of the project. And for me, that's unforgivable. If you don't take the time to understand the context that you're going to be designing within, then you're designing blind. And actually, you're wasting time, you're wasting the client's resources, and actually, you're making it harder for a client to then trust an agency partner in the future.
Now I propose we play a game. As you know, a ping pong table is a must in many creative studios. I will make you a series of brief questions and you have to choose one or another concept. And if you want, you can explain why you choose it. Are you ready for BRANDERMAN ping pong?
Okay, let's do it.
I am a designer or I am a consultant?
I'm going to go consultant. I used to be creative director of the agency. I think I've taken a step away from there so that I can get much involved in much more kind of diverse activities beyond pure design. But yeah, not to say I don't miss getting creative.
Close brief or blue sky brief?
Man, I love the freedom of a blue sky brief. But honestly, if I put my hand on my heart, I would probably say a closed brief. And even if I was given a blue sky brief, I would probably find some ways to put some boundaries on a few things.
Creative strategist or strategic designer?
I'm going to go strategic designer. Start with the strategy first. Make sure you've got a strong foundation before you get creative.
A creation project or a redesign project?
Oh, a creation project every time. Yeah. I love the opportunity to take a fresh perspective and come up with something innovative. Yeah.
Focus groups or gut feelings?
I think there's a place for both of those. I'm not going to pick one or the other.
Mass market or premium market?
It's fun to design for premium. You get to really do things you can't do for mass market. But honestly, I think I would go mass market ultimately. You can really make big change, have a big impact when you're dealing with millions or billions of consumers or products.
A big established brand or a small emerging brand?
Again, I like both. But working with a big established brand, again, it gives you the opportunity to have a very big and positive impact.
Conceptualization or execution?
I'm going to say conceptualization. Yeah. The idea first. A great idea, that's where it's at.
Label design or bottle design?
Bottle design. Easy.
Form follows function or form follows emotion?
Form follows function, for sure.
Leading designers or continuing to design all your life?
I think leading designers. Again, I think it can have more impact through a team of people than I can on my own.
Remote work or face-to-face work?
That's a good one. We've seen the benefits of remote work, right? And certainly at the agency, we have a bit of both going on, but nothing beats face-to-face with your team and face-to-face with the client partners.
A packaging of another agency that you would have liked to have designed?
I was really impressed recently by the launch that Diageo had. They designed and launched a small scale, a paper bottle for Baileys. I think what was fantastic here is, again, this is a true testament to collaboration. They're breaking new boundaries with what packaging is in an effort to be more sustainable, but also create just a brilliant experience for consumers. So yeah, this is one I would love to have been involved in.
A collaboration with another creative or agency that you would like to do?
Yeah, we do a lot of collaborations, quite a lot with brand design agencies. And they're really great fun because then we can be really holistic in how a pack comes together, both how the label interacts with the structure, and we end up with something super holistic that ultimately is more impactful. So I enjoy those kind of collaborations. But one thing we're just starting to get more involved in is the role of digital on packaging and how packaging is a portal to a digital world. So I would love to do more collaboration in that space.
Great. And finally, great designers are born or great designers are made?
Yes, I think speaking from how we've evolved our team here, I'm going to say great designers are born with instincts, but ultimately they're made by experience and by learning, especially in our space where everything is changing all the time. Every day is a learning day here at the agency.
What do you predict will emerge in the packaging design space in 10, 20 years from now? And how do you imagine the term packaging design will evolve?
It's an interesting one because we've been imagining the future of the industry. For a number of our clients, we get to plan strategies that may even span to 2040, 2050. So there's a couple of things that we've been exploring. And at the moment, and certainly in Europe, we're building the foundations of a strong circular economy for packaging materials. We've still got a long way to go, but we're heading there. Once that's established, I think it's a what next for packaging. Packaging at the moment is seen as a negative thing. It's seen as waste quite often. Once we have established this strong and robust circular economy for packaging, we'll actually be able to start thinking of it differently. Maybe packaging can be something that will regenerate and give back to the natural world. We've already seen green shoots of this now. We're seeing packaging made from waste, made from emissions. We're seeing packaging being turned into additives that will bring back the health of soil. We're seeing packaging that could give back to communities. That's a really exciting direction for packaging to go towards. Another aspect that we will absolutely see is packaging becoming more intelligent, more connected, much smarter. And that will enable us to deliver experiences to consumers in a much more seamless way and bring a different kind of convenience, which I think is super exciting. Also, we'll see a lot more collaboration around reuse and refill across value chains to make things happen. We'll probably start to see maybe competing businesses start to collaborate more to unlock some mass in order to deliver real change.
James, what about AI in your particular industry?
We're already using AI in the agency. We're embracing what it can do in terms of helping us become more efficient and time-saving, and also be perhaps a more of a thought starter from a creativity point of view too. And it's also become a really great research tool. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to evolve, but as an agency, we're embracing it. We're using it for those reasons. I think we are cautious about how we deploy it because the work that we do with our clients is incredibly sensitive and confidential. So we're putting things in place to ensure that it stays that way. We're embracing it, but cautiously.
What do you feel you have a different opinion than most of your colleagues?
The way we think about packaging is a little different from, say, some of the other agencies that are in our space. We think about packaging not just as a wrapper that protects a product. Of course, it is that. And it's more than just something that looks good on shelf and creates a great experience for consumers. Actually, packaging is the process that puts the brand into consumers' hands. And it's that process that can have the biggest impact on consumers, on the planet, on the business. So we really think across the entire value chain to try and draw advantage at every single point. So we think about where raw materials come from. Are they sustainable? Are they renewable? When they are converted and filled and distributed, how do we do that as efficiently as possible so that the business benefits and the planet benefits? And when it's at shelf, whether that's online or in store, how do we do that in a way that's distinctive and is intuitive for the consumer to understand? But when it's in consumers' hands, they have to have the best experience that they could possibly have. In fact, consumers expect the next generation of product to have a better experience than the generation that went before. But ultimately, those resources we put in their hands, they have to end up back in the circular economy. So at the very least, they have to be recycled. More and more of our work, though, is about making those circles as small as possible So how do we make the circles in our circular economy more effective, ultimately getting the most out of the resources that we're using? As we think about packaging as a process, as opposed to the superficial, that's what makes us perhaps think a little bit differently from other colleagues.
If you could just take a pill and learn any subject, anything, what would it be?
Gosh, that would be good, wouldn't it? I wish that I would be an expert in the business of design. That's something I've been learning slowly and obviously will continue to learn. I find it super exciting, but I still have a lot to learn in that space.
What is something that people don't know about you that if they did, they would be surprised?
I am a super keen blues guitarist. I used to be in a band or several bands. Work and life gets in the way, and maybe one day I'll be able to pick that up again. But yeah, I love to play the blues.
What is the most important thing on your to-do list for your professional life? What is your next adventure?
Touch has been going for 17 years, and I've really enjoyed the collaboration I've had with my business partner, Guy. But he's a little older than me, and he's now starting to take a bit of a step back. So I'm going to be taking more of a leadership role in the business, which I'm super excited about, but also a tiny bit daunted, if I'm honest. Apart from that, there's a whole load of activities that the agency will be embarking on over the next couple of years, and I'm super excited about it. We've partnered with our mutual friend, Uwe Melicha. He's a fantastic guy. You've had him on this podcast, I think. And he's helping us go beyond FMCG, go into other categories. And I'm so glad that he's part of our organization now, because we want to have a presence in Europe. And Uwe and I, we're going to be working together to make that happen. On top of that, we're in the middle of moving office. So hopefully by Christmas this year, we'll be in a new, more accessible and more sustainable office space. So I'm quite excited about that too. And then, I'm continuing to grow the Vault platform. I have massive plans for this platform. And aside from that, honestly, we believe that collaboration is key to delivering relevance for our clients, but it's also incredibly relevant for building the strengths of agencies. And I'm all about helping and working with other businesses to find opportunities for us all to grow and help each other.
James, thank you for sharing the vault of your design secrets. Your insights on sustainable design is a golden key to future innovation. You are indeed shaping the future, one package at a time. Cheers.
Cheers, Hernán. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you have enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. You can check the episode notes for all the relevant links. I also invite you to follow me on Instagram and on my website, branderman.design. Follow the podcast in your favorite app so you don't miss the next episode of Branderman, the podcast where we try to uncover how to make a positive impact on consumers, the market, and society through package design.